Welcome to Seymour from the Front Pew podcast, coming to you from the broadcast studio at Seymour First Baptist Church in Seymour, Tennessee, and featuring thoughts and discussions around loving God, loving others, making disciples, and living the life. I am your host, Tiger Brooks, and now, on to the podcast. Welcome back to Seymour from the Front Pew podcast. We were down one, who is otherwise occupied with some home projects that have come up at his house.
Yeah. It's almost like it's not disaster, but it's a little bit different than project.
Yeah, this one was controlled.
Yes. Yeah.
And so mitigated any damages or anything like that. And it's ironic. This is as we record this, is the anniversary, 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, 2-year anniversary
of his
today
flood.
Of his water flood.
That's interesting.
At about 11 o'clock at night.
Man, bless his heart. So full disclosure, this is obviously recorded, but we
Snowpocalypse
this in advance of
Snowpocalypse 2026
or whatever that's been forecast for this weekend. This is, as of this recording, this is a midday Thursday. And some conversations came up over the course of the past few days as we have led up to, obviously, them calling for anywhere from 30 inches of snow to
3 inches of rain.
Yeah, to ice to, now at this point in the forecast, things have sort of moved north of us, and we are looking at some sort of wintry mix of sleet, snow, ice, something's going to happen. And it's interesting. You had a kind of passing conversation with your brother-in-law that kind of sparked, hey, it would probably benefit us to do an episode where we sort of give voice to and talk through the process of making decisions regarding canceling of services and things like that, not just for weather-related things, but other things, the other church activities that, we plan and we do, and then things happen, and we have to decide. We have to weigh what are the dangers that we are facing versus getting together and meeting, which is what we all desire to do.
Yeah,
so kind of talk through that.
Yeah, well, again, yesterday it came up. I was calling a new pastor and just saying, hey, have you ever had to make the call before? Have you started thinking about this? You want to think about that ahead of time? And the reality was not trying to give direction necessarily as far as you ought to do or don't do, but okay, so have you talked to how do these decisions get made at this church? Because you're new to this church, you're new to this context, and every church that I've been at kind of approaches this all differently. Mm-hmm. One church that I was at, the pastor this was back when I was on the support staff, the pastor didn't really even hardly make the call. He let the deacons and the guys that were kind of building-oriented people make that call. And so sometimes you got to be able to get the culture of the church to be able to understand where you are. I have been around churches, not that I served in, but I've been around and been a part of churches who they never canceled. Like their culture was they never canceled. They were always going to have something, and it was just like the pastor's idea was he was always going to be at the building and always going to have it open and all of these other things. And I don't take that approach either. But again, if that was who First Baptist was, we would probably try to figure that out or at least think through it or whatever else. And so the hard part with all of this is it's not a lose-lose situation, but it's almost a no-win situation all the time. Mm-hmm. And so it's like someone is going to find a way to be critical or double think your decision regardless of where you stand on all of this. And
it doesn't matter what the decision is.
It does not.
The sky is blue. Well,
yeah, right. And again, same thing. And I think about it with schools, same way where school superintendents take a lot of flack and criticism over those types of things. It's similar for churches and all those types of things. And And so for us, we kind of have a little bit of, like with this snow coming up for this Sunday, maybe even next Sunday, it's back in the forecast for while we are gone is, okay, so what is the logic and the reasoning behind what we do here? One is, I hate to lose a Sunday morning. I really don't like canceling a Sunday morning. We really only come together for worship one day a week. We used to say we only took an offering one day a week, and that's kind of true, although it's not really anymore. It's not the same. I mean, old school church, if you canceled a Sunday and didn't have an offering on Sunday morning, you lost that. You would never get it back. People never made it up. And that sounds like a harsh reality, but it is true. I mean, like it was rarely ever caught back up. And so I would challenge anyone that's listening to think about that, because the expenses for the week are still there. Like all of those other things are still there.
Still got to heat the building.
Right. All that, matter of fact, even more, usually on a day like that or whatever else. But beyond that, you just hate to lose the chance to be able to speak the gospel and worship together and do all of those other things. But for me, over the years, I've also learned it is not worth taking risk on someone getting hurt as we think about Sunday and service and all those other things. My experience is those that don't need to come, if we're open, will be the ones that try to come, and those that probably more easily deal with the snow and ice decide they're just going to stay home even if we're open.
Right.
So it's like this, you're working this counterintuitive thing that's going back and forth on all of this. And so for me, I think about, especially here, our building, our parking lot, there's rarely anything flat in East Tennessee. There's rarely a place where you can park and walk without a hill or steps or whatever else. We have a lot of parking lot. We have a lot of black parking lot that sometimes it's hard to tell whether it is ice or water or what it is. And so I tend to lean toward avoiding that risk and making a call as soon as I can. Yet we're sitting here on Thursday. We haven't had any rain. I'm not going to call it yet. I'm not going to make that call ahead of time or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, and so that's kind of how we approach some of that. I don't want someone to get hurt on our property, and I don't want somebody to risk falling or getting in a car wreck on the way here or any of those types of things.
There's lots of things that kind of go in terms of when you look at us as a Southern Baptist church. There is autonomy.
Yeah.
There is no organization outside of us that's going to dictate what we do in those situations. Now, other churches, Methodist churches, Presbyterian churches, there is a hierarchy, and there is no doubt policies and procedures related to all of these things that get passed down from church to church and things like that. So that is a nuance that a lot of people don't consider. Is that, it's up to us to make this decision as to what we're going to do at our church. And that doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't dictate what somebody else is going to do at their church. They've got to make the best decision for them. But like you say, I think it's valid, especially for a situation where you have a young pastor that's never been in a position to have to make this decision, and just getting to know the culture of that church and what the history has been. And every church is going to have a group of individuals that tend to be the shot callers, that tend to be the people that are the natural leaders that others look to in times like this. And so that's when those conversations need to take place.
Yeah, I think back even whenever I was in Paris. Okay, so West Tennessee, mostly flat. I mean, like what we called a hill there is not really quite a hill, but I had great relationships with a lot of our other pastors. And so usually if weather was coming up, we'd have text thread back and forth and all this other stuff. And there was one pastor who was actually a good friend of mine. And his church was actually, like, to get to his church were two hills on either side. It was called Spring Hill. And the reason was because it was on top of this hill. And to get there was 2 hills. So there was a lot of times where we might be Maplewood, my church might be able to have church, but they might cancel. And I'd hear people, could you believe Spring Hill, canceled? Well, yeah. I can, because their context is different than mine. Mm-hmm. Like their road is different than mine. And so it's hard, again, people often all they hear is so-and-so canceled or so-and-so was open or whatever else. But the circumstances, the history of the churches, the roads to be able to get them are often different. And it's not easy to sit and have to make those decisions because you feel a weight of that. Mm-hmm. There's more going on with more than just have church or don't have church.
Right.
And so, I hate to say it, you in the back of your head, we try to plan ahead. So in the back of your head is, okay, so what can this sermon even push back to that? Or does this service even fit if I make these changes? Or, there's other things that are going on in the midst of all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we are in a situation where we are obviously on a main thoroughfare, Chapman Highway. In most churches, there's not a church on a highway that's any more main thoroughfare than what we're on. And so there was an occasion, I think it was maybe last year or the year before last, where we had snow and ice. I could get out. I have a fairly reliable, good 4-wheel drive truck. And I could get out, and I got out, and I live at the other end of Boyd's Creek Highway. Boyd's Creek Highway was pretty wide open.
Yeah.
But as I was going to go scout out the thing for us, and so I drove down Boyd's Creek, and it was fine. But every neighborhood I passed, they were just completely covered and impassable. And so I got out to the highway, and our church parking lot was completely covered. Obviously, we still had parking lot as it were then. And so we made the decision that it's probably not great to get people to get out, and we canceled. And the other thing that comes up there is, well, why can't we have snow plows to plow the parking lot? Well, that's a very valid question, but there's a valid reason that we can't right now, because we are in a situation where the existing pavement has age on it. Mm-hmm. There are crack on cracks. And if you snow plowed our parking lot, we wouldn't have a parking lot left once they got done.
We'd have a bunch of potholes.
Yeah.
And so, it's very likely that if we tried to plow our parking lot, we're creating another tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage that would have to be repaired somewhere along the way. And again, not everybody thinks about that, but if you are a member of First Baptist and you want evidence of this, go back to the back parking lot around where the dumpster is and start to look at what those areas look like.
Yeah.
And they're not just cracks. They are multiple cracks together to the point where you catch a lip on one of those things and you're gonna pop asphalt out of the ground, and it's not going to be very repairable. And so plus you're still dealing with the whole idea of a lot of times that is water, or at least snow that is melted first and then froze back over. There's only so much you can do with ice at that point in time, and that's oftentimes what we're dealing with is some form of ice.
You're not going to plow that away,
right? So we, again, we have not faced a lot of criticism here, or at least not verbally. No one's come and said, "I can't believe you did this or that or whatever else." I think we've only canceled like once or twice in my 5 or 6 years being here. But we try to make the wisest decision as soon as we can. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to let people know. So like, again, if we get to Saturday night at 6:00 and there's ice or snow on the parking lot and the temperature is not going to be above 30 for the next, 12 hours, we're probably going to go ahead and make the call. Mm-hmm. But yet, if we're Saturday night and nothing's happened yet, and they're predicting it for, 6:00 in the morning, I'm probably not going to make the call until I can get up and see, it's actually doing something, and this is going to be dangerous, that we can't have service. Because again, I go back to every time I hear weathermen foresee something, predict something in East Tennessee, it seems like that's the one time it never happens.
Yeah.
So
East Tennessee weather is notoriously difficult to predict because of the terrain, the topography, and all those kind of things that
the mountain
that work
deflects
together.
it all the way.
Yeah.
So anyway,
there's lots of aspects of this that I think bear kind of discussion because, I mean, here we are, we're talking about an event that's happening this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, let's assume we just a couple
we're not talking
weeks
about
ago,
trunk or treat.
let's talk about let's talk about what happens if it snows during the week.
Yeah.
Like for a Wednesday.
Yep.
You know, where I came from, a lot of it, you know, if the school system was out, then that would pretty much mean that we would cancel. That's a different situation than we are here in Sevier County. There was a couple of days, a week ago.
They were out on a Thursday.
Was it last Thursday?
Yeah,
they were out of school
Thursday.
for absolutely no other reason than it was a little chilly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there wasn't any precipitation anywhere. And so we really can't go by that. I mean, especially here. Now there are areas now when the snow happens, there's areas of our county that are impassable, and we get it. We're not in one of those areas.
No, and
typically.
we do try to use Sevier County at least as a partial guide,
Right.
but not fully. So, I mean, like if Sevier County is out of school and there's snow on the ground, we're probably not going to have church on a Wednesday night or whatever else. But if it's one of those days where Sevier County's out of school because Gatlinburg got, a half inch of snow and it's cold here in Seymour, we'll probably still try to have church or whatever else. But it's Wednesday night. If you're not comfortable being here, getting here, don't come. Like, I mean, I hate to say that, but I don't want anybody to risk something that you're not comfortable in or that you are worried about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of the way we, again, approach Wednesday night. Again, I don't know that we've had to deal with that very much, but that's kind of our approach on all those types of things. And so we'll try to be careful on that. It spills over into a little bit of MVP. We think about that. The three of us have been involved with MVP along the way. And it's funny because sometimes it'll be raining and everybody think we're going to cancel. Well, I mean, like soccer gets played in the rain. It's kind of like football. Now, it doesn't get played in lightning, but it gets played in the rain. And so we don't typically cancel practices or games if it's just raining.
Yeah. Unless it's raining, it's ponding on the field.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's where I was going to go, especially early in a season. We are blessed to have really good soccer fields. My boys played rec soccer and travel soccer in a lot of different places and on a lot worse fields than we are able to maintain here at First Baptist. And so we do sometimes want to protect the fields. We don't want to get, 500 kids on fields and turn them into mud week 2 of the season. And so we'll try to watch that with the rain if it's ponding or whatever else. And but yet at the same time, we also know we try to get in 8 games every season. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And if we cancel more than one, we are always trying to make that up. And the reality is, in both of our seasons, spring and fall, you begin to run out of times where you can make those up. And so if a game is scheduled and there's any way to try to play it, we're going to try to play it. But yet we want to keep people safe and we want to be able to maintain the fields and all of those types of things. And so it's one of those things where we are watching that. Usually practices, a lot of times we'll make some calls on practices. We'll also leave calls up to coaches on that. They can decide whether they want to, if it's raining and the fields are open, they can still cancel their games, but that's a coach decision, not a us decision and those types of things. And so we try to be careful, but that's the same thing. Again, some people are sitting at home and it's not raining there and they're wondering, well, why in the world did games get canceled? But, it's a pour down here or our fields are sitting in a half inch of water because it's rained 4 days this week and we don't need to get everybody on top of them or whatever else. So, yeah.
Now, I'm probably going to go to an area now that is gone to meddling, some would say, but I want to kind of look at the attitude of the heart that we've already kind of alluded to. The person that says, we should never cancel church. You know, the idea behind, well, you know, that's just sacrilege, you know, or whatever, however they may view it, that, you know, you should never cancel church. You know, we should always try to worship.
Yeah.
And I just, my question in that, and I want to hear both of you weigh in on this, is, are we venturing into an area of legalism if we think that missing choosing to cancel a church out of an abundance of caution for people's safety, if that is an affront to God, or if that is something that we need to examine because my activity is determinative of my level of faith in the Lord. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Where do we land on that?
I'm gonna let you start. You want to start? We've been quiet. I mean, like,
well, when it comes to these decisions, I really like that I don't have to make any of them. So that's not my job. That's your call, and I support you 100%. And yep. I don't have much to add to it because that's not really my call. And so
I think about all that. I think there's got to be balance to that. Okay, right. So I think when I put that together, I'll say this: for me, I learned with our COVID situation that having in-person times of worship is invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what is mandated, I will likely never shut down worship for more than a week or two because of weather ever again in my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. I hope that we never face that again. We had never faced it before. I don't look back and criticize anyone over any of those circumstances, but I know that what I learned through that is us meeting together for worship in person is important, and that it should not be taken lightly, and that I should not shut it down for those types of things lightly or easily. But yet, I do not want to put people at risk in our parking lots, or health risk, or those types of things when I can avoid it for a week. Now, again, if we have snow 3 weeks in a row, I'm going to struggle by the end of that to say we're not doing it. I'm going to probably be looking for ways that I can get around it, or find a different way to approach it, or make sure that we get one area of the parking lot clear, or get people here to park people's car. Oh, something. I'm going to look somewhere along the way. We may try to approach things differently if that's what we get dealt. But I do think there's an area of legalism if it is this principled, we don't cancel church.
Right.
Like, based on what? I mean, like,
yeah. Well, and the same thing is, you know, what you alluded to out the gate is the heart behind, well, I didn't go to church, therefore I don't need to give.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those situations, and I'm needling people, and I'm going to make you pray about it, because I think you have to examine your heart and understand that, you know, whether or not a church service is canceled does not affect your relationship to God.
Yeah.
We are obviously called to worship, and we are obviously called to assemble together and not forsake the assembling of ourselves together. We get that, but there also is just logical safety measures that have to be considered, that you have to weigh in the balance. And this thought that we are somehow sinning by not having church is ludicrous to me.
Yeah.
And it's also ludicrous to think that my presence or absence determines whether I'm going to continue to give, because that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever either.
Yeah. You know, and again, so on the whole giving end, there's lots of ways you can go talk through all of that. You know, I can remember when, again, I'll go back through COVID because a lot of things changed in the way we approach church and what we do, and I think some for the good and some maybe not as good. But one of the things inside the life of Seymour First Baptist went from passing a plate for offering to now we have our kiosk out. And somebody said, "What? It's somewhere along the way." Someone said, "Isn't it sad that we have to have those keyed kiosks for giving?" And now, post-COVID, our giving has just been amazing. It's just gone up and up and up and all those types of things. I don't think it has anything to do with passing a plate. And I said, well, the more I think about it, I think it was sadder whenever the church got to a point where they had to pass a plate in front of everyone, every service, in order to get enough to make the church work.
Videos of the pastors are like, nobody's leaving till we get $10,000.
I've been in a church service where they passed it twice. Yeah, where they passed it again. And because there wasn't enough. And it wasn't one of the churches I was serving, but I've been in one of those.
I'm aware of a few myself.
Yeah. And so there are things that have changed over time with all of that. And I think one of the things that I would challenge people in their giving now, Sundays were always crazy days for me, yet I'm the one for our family that kind of takes care of the finances. And so there would be times to where I was just so busy on Sunday, I would forget to have that check ready or whatever else on time. And one of the blessings for me is that I have moved all of our giving to online recurring giving. So the day I get paid, the next morning, my giving comes out, and I know that is scheduled. My pay is scheduled, and my giving is scheduled. It is the first thing that's already been thought of ahead of time, that all that is taken care of. And so whether we have church or not, whether that falls on a Sunday or not, none of that matters anymore because it's all set in place. It's all taken care of. I've determined in my heart a long time ago that that's going to be a priority for us, is giving our tithe. And so to me, there was at one point in time this mindset that I was worshiping through tithes and offerings, and I believe you do worship that way. Mm-hmm. But I believe that you're worshiping when you determine it in your heart that you are going to do that. And so I don't think that has to be in a plate passed by in the service or dropped into a kiosk in a building. I'm worshiping the same way by determining in my heart and having that laid out and set out ahead of time. And so I would say in these things, and when we think about this idea of canceling, the reality is that, again, the church doesn't make up the giving. They do not make up the giving that is lost whenever a Sunday is canceled. Are you a part of that?
Yeah.
So will you determine in your heart to make either however form you use to make sure that it stays on track, or to move toward an online where it's settled, it's done, it's given, whether I'm in the building or not, and whether I see a plate or pass a kiosk or whatever else it is, that it's determined and done. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not going to start a big conversation about modes of giving because, a lot of people have strongly held opinions about that, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. A lot of people will never shift to online giving. They want to continue to give. They need an envelope. They want to give cash or check or whatever. And God bless them. That's perfectly fine. But the same thing for me. Transitioning to online has made it easier for me because I've stopped short of setting the automatic. Because for whatever reason, you can laugh at me if you will.
Act of worship.
They're
pushing the button.
Yeah, yep. there is a moment, and it happened just a little while ago. Matter of fact, our checks hit on Thursdays, typically twice a month, and or every 2 weeks. And so there is a moment that I take, and I'll open up the app, and I will give.
Yeah,
and it is a conscious thing, and for me, it's just me and my phone. And so the Bible says, right hand shouldn't let the left hand know what's going on, and so I'm not making a grandiose, presentation in front of everybody on my row.
Yeah.
By putting in whatever it is I'm putting in. it's just me, but for it still means something to me. And so that's the way I choose to roll. And it so happens there's a pretty healthy percentage of our people are now.
Yeah, we've really shifted that way.
More than 30%.
Yeah. It's probably nearing 50%.
Yeah.
And I think that's as for church health wise and for that, it has been good.
Yeah.
And that is not to direct somebody to say, hey, you have to do it this way.
No.
It's like evangelism. Hey, man, if you're doing it, I'll give you all kinds of tools. You can decide what works for you. My thing is be supportive, be doing that on a regular basis. And so I think it is a part of that. And it is part of, again, to say that it hasn't historically been a part of people's decisions, pastors' decisions or deacons' decisions on the life of the church and when and where you cancel services or where you don't. I would say it definitely has been a part of those things historically. Mm-hmm. And yet I'm not sure that was healthy for it to have to be a part of that. So, yeah.
So, hey, of all, thanks for the reminder. I had forgotten to tithe Leah's paycheck, so I just did that while you were talking. So,
you
new paychecks.
Is she aware that she just got tithed on?
Yeah. I was supposed to do it last week, and I completely forgot. So when you said that,
Amen.
I'm going to do that real quick.
All right.
I skirted around the first question you had about the legalism and I was trying to come up with the passage. I only half listened to everything y'all just said. But
half more than normal.
That's what's your name? When it comes to stuff like that, the canceling and how could you ever cancel? And I think you could take this to the extreme. So with the grain of salt, I am reminded in those moments, the teaching, if you go all the way back to the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 27, I think it's 27, talks about when the Amalekites attacked the Israelites from the back to get those who were tired and to kill off those who were tired. And then in the aftermath of that, as the Israelites traveled, they made it a habit. They marched in the formation of the tribes. And instead of having, traditionally, they had however many thousands of people that were either aliens, orphans, widows, or people who were God-fearing Gentiles were the ones who brought up the back. And so after that attack, they moved them to the middle of the pack so that they were protected, so that the weakest of the bunch were protected instead of letting them be at the back easily attacked. And so we were set up even this early in the Bible about how we take care of the least of these. And then that translates to so much in the New Testament with Jesus and the New Covenant. And so I think one of the big arguments I would have against the people who we should have church at all costs is going back to what you said a long time ago, in that a lot of times when it comes to those decisions, the people who feel like they need to be here or will be here are the ones who probably least need to be here. And so it is...
Or shouldn't take the risk.
Shouldn't take the risk.
Right.
Maybe that's the best way to say it, yeah. So I think we are doing our due diligence to take care of people when we make those decisions. And so if you're caught on having to be in the church house, while it's important and everything, I think we come back to that the church building is nothing more than a building. These are things like we know and remind ourselves. I have not really encountered again, I don't have to make those decisions, so it doesn't fall to me. But I would have a hard time even listening to any of those arguments, just because if you're trying to take care of, if the argument is the little old lady trying to cross the parking lot is going to slip and fall, well, we're doing our best to take care of that person by not creating the opportunity for them to do that. And if you can't respect that, it's different when it comes to like the canceling and then nothing happens. I get the argument and being open to criticism in that. But when it's a legit ice on the parking lot, I don't see the argument for we should be at the house of the Lord every Sunday.
Yeah. And I would again just kind of sum all that up is to say, like, our hearts are for people and for our church, and we don't take these decisions lightly, but yet we have thought through them. We have some logical principles that are guiding us, and we feel like that those principles are trying to protect our people and do what is right for the church. And but yeah, I mean, again, in the middle of all that, our heart is to be together for worship. But there are situations and times that lead us to not be able to do that, and we're going to protect those that we need to protect as we make those decisions.
The funny part about being in leadership of roles is that you also are dealing with the other side of the pendulum, that is any little thing will keep them away from church. And so, and you're with them, you're going, no, you need to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want you here. You need to be
I know
in the house
UT
of the
lost
Lord.
yesterday, but you really ought to be here.
I know you have a bunion.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You can still come.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that brings me to one more aspect of this before, and I will jump off of here in just a second. But thinking about your ministry as a worship pastor, you're affecting, there's probably, in terms of a subset of our congregation, you're dealing with the most amount of people, I would say,
Right.
on any given Sunday or Wednesday. And so you have said repeatedly, we always joke with you, when there are times in the schedule that we've canceled Wednesday,
Right.
you take a hit.
Yep.
When we miss a Sunday and people get out of that habit, you take a hit.
Yep.
So kind of give some, just for the person that maybe doesn't understand the way that plays out in the practical sense. Like last night, again, we're recording on Thursday. Last night, we had a couple of new people show up for choir. This Sunday will be the first time that they may have an opportunity to sing in the choir with people.
Right.
And if we miss this, we very well could, based upon what we know right now. There's a chance that, it could shift that person's ability or desire, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm not making a judgment on them. I
Right.
know them.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying?
I do.
yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so I think that's two different sides of the coin. When we joke around here, because we take a mid-fall break, we take a mid-spring break. Obviously, summer is a break. We
Christmas
have
break.
a break. Yeah, so we do wind up breaking a lot for Wednesday nights, and I am the wrench in that and don't want to break. When we frequently say we need to plan a break for our teachers, and I'm like, well, worship ministry is still going on. And the reason behind that and why is that worship ministry is built on consistency. Because we never get a Sunday off in worship ministry. So to take a Wednesday night off hurts our Sundays, because you want to be consistent. And with most people, not to cast dispersions on anyone, but people have this general mindset. If I can't be there this Sunday, well, I'm just not going to go this Wednesday night. And that is detrimental, because we're not ever working on just that Sunday.
Yeah.
We're, especially with worship choir, orchestra, we kind of are, but it's a building mechanism. So, so that's where it hurts us, even if we, so consistency is the key. Also, Sunday is coming every single week.
Every single week.
And, if it sounds petty, and I don't mean it that way, but if I did the exact same music 2 weeks in a row to make things easier, I would get emails about that.
Yeah.
People are expecting it to be different and to be
Vibrant, fresh,
and relating to what the sermon is that Sunday, which I appreciate is how we function it. So, I think that's the argument for why not Wednesday nights. Now, as far as the canceling for this, that, the other, I'm happy to adjust. We just adjust if we have to cancel a Wednesday or a Sunday. It's a lot harder to cancel a Wednesday night based on weather and then adjust the Sunday that's coming, because we won't have practiced. But we have adequately done that. Yeah. But I think the other thing is that, we put a lot of stock and effort to making worship services relevant isn't the right word, but to be unique and applicable. Right? So whatever Corey is preaching on, So we even had a little bit of that conversation yesterday because it was if we do have to cancel this Sunday, how's that change the preaching schedule?
Mm-hmm.
And do I then change the services to, if he moves this sermon he was going to preach this Sunday to February 8th, do I do the service I was going to do today or this Sunday on February 8th, or do I go with the service that's already planned for February 8th?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, again, and people don't think about this, but all this is in the midst of, we're getting ready to go to Guatemala. So we were going to kind of use some of the music for our worship team is doing in Guatemala.
It's irrelevant then.
Yeah.
Hey, Alegria is not going to work on February the 8th.
No, it'll still work.
It would still work. Because
I planned
but you won't be here.
But I can't plan K Alegria. Yes, it's because we're leaving for Guatemala, but the text relates specifically to where his sermon is.
So, but it's those. I mean, I hate to say it. It is. There's nuance and thought in a lot of those things that people don't often realize is there.
Yeah.
And so I think people appreciate that they're there, but they often don't realize what goes into all of that being there.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't even know that I ever even answered your initial question, but
I think it's a good thought, though.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
It's time to eat
That's pretty good for halfway listed.
Yeah.
I know, I'm starving.
So there you have it. Kind of the what goes into the decision-making processes as we approach things like we just approached as you listen to this.
Whatever we did on Sunday.
Whatever we did.
We did the right thing.
Whatever happened, it was good.
If you got complaints, go to Jason.
All right. Thank you for listening. As always, we're going to give you some information on how you can get back in touch with us if you have any ideas for future episode content, things like that. We'd always love to hear from you. Appreciate you. And we'll say bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Seymour from the Front Pew. Our sole desire for this podcast is to glorify God by educating and encouraging His body. If you would like to learn more about anything you've heard today, feel free to reach out by email at staff@seymourfbc.org or by visiting our website at seymourfbc.org. If you're located near our community and do not have a church home, come worship with us at 10:15 a.m. on Sunday morning. Until then, we pray God's richest blessings on you and yours as you love God, love others, make disciples, and live the life.